Hey guys, let's talk about tonight's episode of The Flash. And Felicity introduced the gang to Ray and his Atom suit. And I thought it was a bit of a fun episode. We had some killer bees in the mix. Really, they were robotic bees, but it was a fun little case of the week this week. But what was most interesting was, of course, the fact that Barry decided to let Cisco and Felicity in on what he believes is the truth about Dr. Wells. Now, the more interesting thing in this episode was the fact that Cisco was having flashbacks or having memories of Dr. Wells killing him. And we all know that we're not in that timeline. When Barry sped really fast to try to stop the tsunami, he reversed time and went into a different time zone. So the fact that Cisco is having memories of something that technically hasn't happened or did happen, but now I'm still very unsure as to how all that plays out. But I thought that was very interesting that Cisco is having these visions, these memories of Dr. Wells telling him that he is the Reverse Flash, telling him that that he was very smart and then ultimately killing him. So I thought that was very interesting. We also had a very fun opening scene with Barry, Joe, and Eddie. And, Eddie and Joe were doing their police work, and obviously Barry was helping them out, and he was quickly bringing all of these bad guys into the car, taking them out, handcuffing new people. So it was just a really fun opening scene with Eddie sort of getting his first taste of how the Flash really works. And we all know that in last week's episode, Eddie was told the truth, and they gave Iris some cheesy, some silly backstory as to where her colleague was, but he was really dead. And in this episode, we sort of carried on with that thread of her questioning Eddie, and she's not sure what he's keeping from her. She even believes that he might be cheating on her, which is like really. But then, Barry comes to Eddie's defense, and he says, listen, being a cop is tough. They have to take home all this bad stuff. They see dead bodies all the time, and he just doesn't want to share that with you, like cut him some slack. And Iris is like, I'm not feeling that. And she basically goes to Eddie and says, if you don't tell me the truth, we're done. And of course, Eddie just found out the truth about Barry, and it's not really his secret to tell. And he's sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place. And again, who says it? Eddie says it. Everybody knows this secret except for Iris. It's like the show is just getting a lot of things right, but this particular storyline, this is just, for me, an epic fail. I'm sorry. Iris not knowing the truth for all these episodes is just silly to me. So it was fun to see Cisco and Ray getting along very well in this episode. They're just a bunch of nerdy guys, getting all geeked out over their suits and naming, this bad guy and or bad girl, I should say, in this episode. So it was just really cute watching the two of them. And then, of course, we find out at the end that Ray is ultimately going to shrink his suit, which is, I guess, something that has happened in the comics. And now they're going to actually bring that to life, I guess, on the show, which is that, he was saying he wanted to make the suit bigger and more grand or something like that. But really what he realizes he needs to do is make it smaller. So I guess we're going to get a taste of how his Atom suit shrinks. So for all those fans out there who, were hoping and anticipating that, we'll get that, I'm assuming, in the future. So yeah, it was a pretty good episode. Dr. Wells still looks like he is suspicious of Barry. He's, watching him a lot. And obviously Barry is not himself lately because he realizes that Dr. Wells is the one who killed his mother, not realizing that Dr. Wells isn't really Dr. Wells. He's actually, how do you say it again? What's his name? Edith Thorne or whatever his name is. Yeah. He is in his body. So even there was a woman at one of the labs that the killer bees was going after, and she knew Dr. Wells back in the day, and she tells Barry that it was like he went from one person to a completely different person in overnight after his fiance died. So all these little bits and pieces of information that Barry is finding out is obviously going to lead him into the direction realizing that he really is not the Dr. Wells that he idolized and was his his not his hero, but somebody that he looked up to all these years, and he's going to ultimately find out that it wasn't a complete lie, that he really was and probably would have still been his hero and somebody that he idolized and admired, but he's been trapped in another person's body all this time. So yeah, it'll be interesting when that big reveal comes out. So, of course, Cisco went to see Joe and he's like, what's up with Barry? And then by the end of the episode, Barry reveals to Cisco and Caitlyn the truth that he suspects Dr. Wells is the one who ultimately killed his mother and is the Reverse Flash. So it'll be interesting to see when all of that plays out. So yeah, Felicity was all right in this episode, of course. Her and Ray were very quirky and they had that big dinner and was just very awkward. And Iris was taking out all of her anger on Eddie in front of everybody. And, it was just kind of like, I don't know, this storyline does not work for me. And they keep always trying to make Felicity some vamped up sex kitten or something. Every time she's wearing some tight dress and her hair's all boom, and I'm just like, can we tone it down a little bit with Felicity? They don't have to make her hot stuff all the time or try so hard to make her hot stuff all the time. Sometimes it's just awkward because I just wasn't really feeling her hair in this episode and her outfit. I like the blue and white one, but the red, I was just kind of okay, whatever. Anyway, that's just me nitpicking. So yes, we'll see what happens when the show returns. I'm excited to see how everything reveals itself, how Dr. Wells will finally reveal himself to the rest of the group. What's going to happen? Are we going to end up back in another timeline? Will everything that played out in the first timeline come back? Will Will Iris have memories of that night or that day when she kisses Barry and reveals to him that she ultimately cares and loves him? She didn't really say that, but we know that that's what she meant, right? So will all the things that happened in the first timeline reveal themselves in this one, seeing as how Cisco had those memories? It should be interesting if they drop that thread and just only have Cisco have the memory of that night, that day, or whatever. So, okay, guys, let me know what you thought of this week's episode. Leave a comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you next week.